it's a real joy to share about the Holy Spirit's work in my life. It's something that I love to remember and talk about, think about what he's presently doing and what he did in the past. I feel very, very blessed to have encountered him, that he encountered me, that he reached out to touch me and to connect with me where I was. I grew up in this church, but it was a different church. I grew up in a Mennonite church. It was rather conservative. I looked up at these lights that you can see now, and I fell asleep on the pews, my mother's lap. I grew up in a conservative community, and there was a lot of teaching of the Bible and a lot of understanding of the holiness and the rules and the things that you do to please God. And I had a great desire to please God and my parents, and I had very good parents, as you know. And I did want to do what was right by them. But I had a feeling in relating to God that he didn't quite favor me or look on me with pleasure. Kind of an expression on his face was like a little disappointed when I would come to him, because I'd be very aware of all my shortcomings and all the ways that I didn't measure up. And so that was the feeling that I had with him. I wanted to please him, but did not feel like that I could or did. And also in my growing up years, even though good home memories and family memories, I had a fear of rejection, because we were different. You know, I was different from my classmates. I only wore skirts and dresses, and I was always afraid of being pointed out as being different. She's different. Her mother's different. They're different. So I did have that fear of rejection thing going on early in my life. And I remember the first time that I really encountered the Holy Spirit. I went away on a mission trip to Mexico, and during the training time, I believe there was like a laughter revival going on in Toronto, and one of the speakers came, and he began to share about the Father heart of God. And when we went up for ministry, he prayed specifically over me, just touched my head and prayed against the fear of rejection. And I remember this peace that came over me, and I fell backwards, not being really even aware. I just felt this deep peace. And when I came to, I realized I was on the floor looking up at people, but really not caring what they thought of me, like just feeling the presence of God and the peace of God in a way that I had never felt it quite before. I think later that week I experienced like laughter and joy, and it was like the Lord was breaking things off of me of fear of man and anxiety and things that I had learned to walk with but didn't know wasn't him. And so that was the kind of the beginning of a journey for me of really saying, God, do you actually like me? You enjoy me? Sorry. You like being with me? And a love relationship with Jesus that the Holy Spirit began to just initiate in my life. And I was hungry for that. The Holy Spirit began to move in our youth group, in our Mennonite youth group as well, like when I was 17, 18 years old. And we would meet together and worship together and just feel his presence. But we had a retreat where one of the guys was just saying, hey, if you've never really experienced the Holy Spirit, just come forward. And so we came forward in the midst of worship, and I remember reaching my hand out to pray for my friend who I knew was dealing with different things. And as I reached out to pray for her, words came out of my mouth that I didn't know what they were, and it was another language, but I knew that as I speak it, kind of babbled this out, that I felt very close to the Lord. It was tongues, but I just wanted to talk and talk and talk to him in that language. It was a spirit language where I was communicating spirit to spirit with him, and I knew he knew what I was saying, and I knew what I was saying, but it was an intimate love language to him. And I think people began to worry about me because I just wanted to walk off on my own and talk with him. And so he gave me ways of crying out my heart and being able to express myself to him, and he drew me in a greater intimacy with himself over the next years. And in my early 20s, there was a lot of angst because of feeling like, oh, I like this guy and he doesn't like me, and rejection feelings started to arise again. And I remember one time when I was pouring my heart out to the Lord, and the Holy Spirit came and said, the Lord, your maker, is your husband. From Isaiah 54, where he said, the Lord your maker was to be your husband. Sing, O barren woman, you who never bore children. And I took that as the Lord's promise to me. Lord, if you want me to give myself fully to you, then I do. If you will be that for me, if you will be that intimate, that close, then I will give myself fully to you. And there was an abandonment that the Holy Spirit was calling for in me. And I gave myself fully to that, and it was a decision in that moment, and yet it was a continual thing over the course of my life, that as the Holy Spirit puts his hand on things and he says, Sonia, will you give me your all? There's a desire to give him my all, because I feel his deep love, and he's taught me how to trust. He's taught me that at his right hand, there's pleasures. Was that, I think, Psalm 16 that talks about rivers of pleasure at his right hand. And I've learned that being in his presence, being even lingering in worship, or just being in his presence anywhere, is like the best place to be. It's a delightful place to be. It's where hurts get healed. It's where issues get resolved. It's where you feel like you can walk on because you have clarity. And so I'm just grateful for the Holy Spirit's work in my life. I welcome his continual work in my life, in all of our lives. I just want to say, if you are feeling him drawing you closer, don't be afraid of that, because he's so good, and his intentions towards us are so good. And he has more for us than we could ask or imagine. And he's bringing us into places that we've never been before. But we can trust his heart. We can trust his character. So God bless you. And it was good to share with you in this way.